Welcome to On Target. This is part of the Cutting Edge website. Individual shows we do for people over the period of years that we've been on. That when we find issues that no one's covering, or we find issues that aren't being carefully analyzed or looked at, we create these programs called On Target, and they're designed to have people speculate and understand more about that issue and to find out more about it. At any rate, today we're really honored to have two of the top-notch cutting-edge team members on board with us today. Sandy Guinness is the former mayor of Costa Mesa, and she is a civic planner and knows more about city government than anyone probably we know. And of course we have our stalwart Larry Gilbert, who's been with us through the tough times and the good times and all of it. And so we're going to be talking together today about an issue that everyone seems to just say take for granted or not even consider, and that's the impact of the internet and how much more impact it's going to have on our lives as far as the political side of what we're doing in our society. So I'm going to turn it over now to Larry, and he's going to give you a little background about the internet and about what he's discovered in his research.
Okay. Ron, I know in being involved in the electronics industry, I've had my fingers involved in this, and the internet is basically about 2 decades old, and the amazing power that it offers. When we started out just with chat rooms and emails back and forth, and we had the dial-up before we went to broadband, where now we have podcasts and videos. It has really brought people together from all over the world. You know, you read that there's 6.5 billion people in the world, and I've read that about 1 billion of them are connected in one form or another, be it through cell phones, laptops, or PDAs, to the World Web.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, because you just got back from a trip to China, tell us what you found out about the internet over in China.
Well, that whole trip was amazing, and the fact that they have jumped into the 21st century without a safety net, as I recently wrote. They definitely have use of it. We walked around with handheld devices. We connected to the internet, so I was able to connect with websites in the United States from anywhere we were in the mainland China. So the technology is being used there.
Were the hotels able to give you internet access also?
Yes, they did. For 100 yuan, which is about $1.50, we were on for an hour, checking our emails and going to websites such as Cutting Edge and the Drudge Report, and it was not blocked. I know the government has got some censorship over there. They're very concerned that they don't want people saying anything negative about the government. But there are so many millions of bloggers.
Now, out of 100, what is it, 1.3 or 1.1, I don't know, billion people, how many people are connected in China?
About 10%.
So about, what, 130 million
There's
people?
over 130 million people in China that are already connected to the internet.
And how does that compare to the United States? How many people here in the United States are connected?
About 240 million.
So really, not that much more.
There's not much more in the States that have yet to take advantage of the technology, but in China, it's just starting. I mean, it's got an unbelievable potential.
Do they have blogs over there?
They've got millions of bloggers,
Millions of
just
blogs.
like us. Millions of bloggers.
Okay, now Sandy, you just started your own blog recently.
Yeah.
Tell us about how a Luddite, such as yourself, determines that it's time to step into the fray.
Well, yeah, I always refer to myself as an electronically challenged Luddite. And
Tell for the people that didn't go to Stanford, tell them what a Luddite is.
the Luddites are the ones who pretty much were in the opposite of the forefront on new technology. Oh no, don't give us the steam engine. Oh no, those automobiles are unsafe.
Okay, new technology, fearful of new technology.
And I just found that, number one, you put something out there, and maybe your audience is more limited, but it's what you wrote. You don't have an
Filter.
editor. There's no filter. An editor isn't going to decide whether or not you get to express your opinion. An editor isn't going to take parts out of what you express. It's what you said. And I also find it kind of empowering because, you read about those guys way back in, 1776, and Tom Paine, Common Sense, and it's kind of thrilling. And now everything
Online publishing, right?
corporate,
Yeah.
corporate publishing, getting your papers out, that's practically impossible. But online, you can kind of follow that tradition.
One of the things I want to follow up on, the three of us have all been involved in sending our ideas to various newspapers.
Yeah.
And every time that we send, for every one we get printed, we might get 20 or 30 that are not printed.
Yeah.
And that's if we're lucky. A lot of times we just don't get them printed for several years just because they don't like you. So by this new technology, if it doesn't matter whether the local problem is solved or not solved, we're going to get that information out to the people.
We hope so. And one of the other things is it's helpful in connecting the dots, because sometimes I read something in the paper and it's like, well, but I know that guy and I know that he did blah, 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 and that's not true. You call the paper, well, we already did the story on that. And they're not going to do a follow-up, and they
So-
probably won't print your letter. So it's not just opinion, it's actual factual connections that, because of the electronic media, we can find and we can broadcast.
Now I wanted to ask you, because Larry got involved in a local blog, regional blog, and I got involved in that same blog, and then I got involved in a local city blog. Now, are you on any other blogs than just your own blog that you set up?
No, I comment occasionally, but other than that, this is my first plunge.
Okay, so you decided you didn't want to have any chaos or conflict. You just go ahead and step right out there and say what's on your mind.
Yeah,
Good.
it's
so
my
is
baby.
it, so has it been fun?
Oh yeah, it's challenging. I'm still learning how to put in pictures and links.
That's good. At any rate, now back to Larry again. Now, I was talking about the other blogs that you're on. How many blogs are you on?
Well, I was on one where I think that blog has pretty much been shut down, but most of my efforts are on, and I could do a little commercial here, it's the Orange Juice blog.
Right.
And what I like about it is that there's opinions from all sides.
So for the people that are in China, this is the Orange Juice blog is for the regional area of Southern California in Orange County,
That's
basically.
correct.
So
And
we
it's-
let the people know where that is. Now, what about international blogging? Have you done any of that?
Whether or not the things that we have posted have been picked up, I don't know, but as far as international blogging, it's all been local.
Okay, so what we're saying is that you could, though, we could virtually go international with
very true.
other bloggers that are out there. There's Salon.com was a good example of what the first kind of regular news people that weren't kind of allowed to do their normal thing, so they went in and started their own website. And Salon.com is a good example of they kind of self-police themselves, and so they're not so outrageous. A lot of the blogs, though, however, are really kind of scary.
Oh yeah.
So tell us about your.
Well, I think you need
familiarization
to
with
start
it.
off by having a code of ethics. If you're putting out a blog, and we don't have a problem with people signing on anonymously, even though we prefer them saying who they are, or giving themselves, I'm anonymous 123 versus 456,
Yeah.
so you know if there's the same person coming on over and over again hammering, or you're getting a wider variety of feedback.
And you can follow the thread then.
That's true. It makes it a lot easier if somebody has some form of an identity. I don't care what it is, but you live with that. There's no reason to have stuff on there that your children or grandchildren can't see and read. But beyond that, we don't want to get into censorship. There's some people who are working in the city or a school district that have something that needs to be said, and they're in fear of losing their job. So I can understand that some people have to keep their.
Well, let's help out the grandmas out there that are going to just they're upset about something in their local community or in their state or in their nation, wherever it is, and they want to say something that's on their mind, and they're not and they shouldn't really be afraid to step right up there and say what's going on.
Exactly.
Well, what finally caused you to go over the edge and say, well, I'm going to do this?
Let me think. Well, part of it is I'm very curious. I'm an inquisitive person. Somebody makes a statement and I say, well, where is your backup? There is no backup. So I dig around myself and I find whether the statement was true or not. Is the statement in a council meeting, on a blog, in the newspaper, whatever. And then once I find this factual material, what do I do with it? Like, oh, I'm curious enough about stuff. I'll call up in Sacramento and say, where'd this number come from? And I'll find out the number's bogus, or that there was a different source for it,
Right.
or whatever. And then also, as I say, I'm one of the most opinionated people I know. And so it's an opportunity to hold forth. And I see our local papers folding, and as a matter of fact, even our major dailies like the LA Times is laying off columnists, laying off reporters, and their opinion section getting smaller and smaller, their letters section getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So the information is getting narrower, and I think through the electronic media, we can broaden it again.
One of the things that I thought was interesting is that once you publish an opinion, an article on a blog, the newspapers just go, I don't want to touch it. They just go, I don't even want to be near it.
Yeah, but
now,
wait a minute
why
now, Ron.
is that? I don't quite understand why they don't. Are they afraid they're going to have to pay you for it if they copy and put that in as a letter to the editor? Because a lot of times I've just done an article and put it on a blog, and then I've sent the same thing to the newspaper and asked them to print it, and they never, not a chance.
Oh, well, they do that, though, with the different newspapers, too. Oh, well, it was printed in XYZ, well, then we don't want it. They
I
want
see.
to be V1.
I gotcha.
Well, the other side of that too, Ron, is that they know that when you're a blogger and something comes across your fax machine or your telephone, in 2 minutes you can put out your post, where they're not going to publish until the next morning, generally speaking. So
Or a
they
week later,
recognize that we are
whatever.
beating
Yeah.
them to the punch. We're picking up stories that they may not cover, and they now have their own blogs as part of the newspaper. So they've gone to free online newspapers, which I get many of every single day.
Right.
Then they have their own blogs. So they're recognizing that the internet and the bloggers are definitely having an impact on their readership.
And what I found that was interesting is also that the major media, the television, all the television shows, all of them, whether they're news or actual dramas or comedies or whatever, they all have a blogging aspect to them now, so that you can make your comments about this or that or the other thing. So our communication virtually has changed dramatically, and now we can get what? Can we get the truth? Is it easier to get the truth now or harder? Because there's more.
Yeah,
There's
but
more
Ron,
out there.
You have to sift more.
You have to trust but verify, to quote Ronald Reagan, because there's people out there who have their own agenda, and if you don't know who they are and they're writing, you need to just do your homework and try to multiple source the information and use your own judgment. You know, one of the things that's happening in the media, by the way, that I've noticed in one of the newspapers, they've had a tremendous turnover, and they bring in, with all due respect, new kids right out of school who don't have the history of your city.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have the knowledge that we do of the cities that we live in, so that we can go back and point out what happened in the past. They're coming in cold.
Right.
And it's a challenge for them, and they've got to start somewhere.
Okay, let's move on to something that I think is important, and that is how a story is reported. Right now, you've got 3 stories, really big stories in the nation that are just, and they're just being. I mean, I don't know how to even explain how they're being reported. You have immigration and the immigration law by this, the set passed by the Senate. Who's to know? I mean, you've got these vociferous people on one side, you've got vociferous people on the other side. Healthcare. They say, okay, this is the part. I mean, I hate to go on a rant here, but everybody wants healthcare, free healthcare. Okay, I happened to look at the Democratic debate last night, and they're all sitting there apologizing to each other, and they're all saying, well, I think we all agree that everybody should have free health care. And then to sit around and then you turn around and say, well, do you understand that means that everyone will have to, that when you get free health care to everybody in the country, that eventually somebody's got to pay for it.
Oh, is that the way it works?
So the bottom line, or wait, the next time that you want an MRI, it could be the year 3000 before you could get there. If everybody had health care, well, every time that they bring in the immigration people, right, and they're going to give them free health care.
But wait a minute, we got to keep the families together, mind you.
So
they
do you
also-
see
And
where
their
the
dogs,
do you see
too.
where the complexities of these are, and we're still, even though there's all this blogging and all this stuff, a lot of these issues never come to the fore. They never say, well, gee whiz, it's a good idea to give free health care, but they don't tell you how they're going to pay for it, or how they're going to develop enough information or enough of the technology to actually take care of people. They wouldn't be able to do it. And the same thing with the gas prices. Can you imagine if we had 20 million or 30 million less people in this country? The price of gas would be lower, wouldn't it? So you've got, so you got healthcare, you've got the immigration situation, right? And then you've got this wonderful 2-year run at trying to choose a new leader for the country.
You forgot Iraq too.
Well, that's part of it. That's
Oh,
what I'm
is
saying.
that a story that needs to
That's
be
a
covered?
normal. That becomes another part of that story. In other words,
Oh yeah, that's old news now, isn't it?
well, everybody just said we gave up. Didn't we give up?
We've done our part. We won the war.
Didn't we lose already? I don't understand it. I mean, that's the part that's got me.
It's the
from
exit
it, too.
strategy is the problem. The war has been won. I heard the president
So
say
let's
it.
get on to this, Larry. You know, how do they report? Who is they? We're the ones that are supposed to report this news. So tell us whether you got all this blogging available to us and all this stuff, but nobody touches these issues in any real depth. Why is that?
Well, you know, it's funny because you have the liberal media on the networks, if you would, but then you've got the conservatives that are on talk radio that were hammering from the other side. So I'm not saying it's the balance, but there's a lot of people probably stuck in traffic with nowhere to go that are probably listening to the radio, and hopefully they are picking up on some of the arguments that the conservatives are making as to what's happening. It's a
But-
tough one. It's a
but-
tough one.
but-
And I think some of the issues become complex. Maybe they're not as complex as they need to be, but once the Senate starts messing with it and the congressman and you have this constituency and that constituency, you have these bills that are just overwhelmingly complex. So instead of saying, oh, I'll go on the internet and read the thing, you get through the first 3 paragraphs and it's just overwhelming. So people throw up their hands and leave it to the media.
That's what I was going to point out. I think, to be honest with you, that what major media does and what the people, those politicians in power are trying to do is overload us with a constant barrage of wrong-headed thinking, I guess is the only way I can point it out. And that's from both sides, whether it's the right wing or the left. We're getting, oh, well, that person's terrible because anytime they say that person's terrible, I have a problem with that. Except for Hillary Clinton. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm just kidding. What I'm saying to you, though, is whenever you say someone's terrible, that dismisses their entire agenda, which maybe 20% of it could be even good.
Oh, you mean it's easy to find fault, but come up with a solution is the real challenge.
That's what I'm pointing out. So how do we change what the perception is for news, these kinds of major things that are going to affect our lives for several years? In other words, we're looking at whether we choose, Hillary Clinton and Obama. Let's say they run as a team, as a President Hillary and Vice President Obama.
Won't happen.
And then you've got Secretary of State Bill Clinton, right? And put that against, let's say, Rudy Giuliani and Colin Powell, running on the Republican ticket as a moderate run. Will they make it through the transfer? Because of their positions on abortion or on whatever. I mean, I
Or
understand.
because their brother-in-law had an affair with a chimpanzee.
Really.
Oh, you heard about that? Oh, okay. I thought that was only on certain blogs.
Look we're trying to correct these false reports, not encourage.
That's why I didn't identify the individual.
Yeah. So the issue is at hand. How are we? Are you guys happy with the way they're reporting the news on immigration, on healthcare, and on the election?
Well, let me give you an
Definitely not.
Okay,
Why?
let
You
me,
can give
let
me
me
an
jump in.
example.
I'm
Wait,
gonna
okay.
just come back. We did it on Target last year because we were not happy with the anchors, and we talked about anchor news.
Yeah.
I thought of Katrina, how Geraldo was down there, and everybody's sensationalizing on that story.
Right.
Coming back to where we are today, as you say, with the immigration, there's been a lot of talk about it, and there's no quick and easy solution to it. And I know the president wants to have.
Are you forgiving 20 million people? Let's say 10. Let's say 10 on the conservative side, 20 or 30 on the other side. Are you going to give them amnesty and
Wait,
say?
but let's
stay-
back up and say they broke the law coming here. It's not just immigration; it's illegal immigration. We have legal immigration. There are people coming in from Sweden or wherever that stand in line and wait until they have their opportunity, and there are limits for every single country, and included in that proper immigration, X number can and do come in from Mexico. We have no problem, I don't think, with those people who play by the book. But when we decide that we're going to throw out the rules and we're not going to enforce the sovereignty of our country.
Larry, if
That's
you
where the
if you were living
president's
in a
going
perfect
wrong.
world, if you were living in a
That's right.
perfect world, okay, your thought might be true. But the bottom line is you've got cities like Oakland, California, or Berkeley, okay, or wherever it is in the rest of the country, and there's plenty of them that have given complete amnesty to these people who don't have, the police are not going to pick them up, and you have no support. You have no consensus of opinion that they're going to go arrest anybody. So the bottom line is, unless you have an enforcement tool, why make a law that is broken? In other words, if every single person, I'll give you the best analogy I can think of, if every single person in the country drank a 6-pack of beer before they went to bed at night, banning beer would not be a viable option. And as a matter of fact, that's why they redid that the famous amendment, right?
Yeah, they tried it once.
They
Didn't work.
tried
Ron,
banning
let me
it.
just say
So-
to you, 20 years ago, Ronald Reagan tried it. We did have an amnesty for X million,
Yeah.
and we have failed to enforce the law.
Well, they
What
had-
makes you think they're going to enforce it now?
Yeah, they had a carrot and a stick, and so they passed it, and they got those carrots out there, and the sticks got put away in the closet, and that was it.
Well, so what?
I don't
is
trust
it-
our government to enforce whatever they're talking
So if
about.
the government, if the people aren't going to enforce the law, if the government isn't going to enforce the law, then what's the solution? We just throw up our hands and say, come on down, and everybody's wide open borders, and we have no more problems. We just open the borders to anyone that walks through the door. Is that what we're going to do? Is that what it is?
One world government. There you go.
Hey, Ron, it's above your pay grade. Have you gotten a call from the White House asking for your opinion?
Hey, listen, I listen to Hannity and Combs too.
I'm sorry for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel sorry for myself after having to listen to the nonsense. But, there's so many different people that have an opinion about illegal immigration and about this and that and the other thing. But when it gets right down to it, nobody's going to do anything about it. The police are not going to enforce the law. If the police are not going to enforce the law, we're just dreaming, aren't we?
Sure.
So what's the answer? Is there? I mean, I'm trying to goad you into saying, open the borders and forget about it.
I'm not going there.
You're not going to go
Well,
there, okay?
You've heard my solution.
Yes.
Right? Slightly tongue-in-cheek, but
Let's move.
Come on, Sandy, let's
answer
hear
the
your
other
opinion.
one. Let's say
Don't sugarcoat
is
it.
we
What's your
take
opinion?
people who are on welfare. We take people hard-working people who don't want to be on welfare, who come from other countries. You could trade with one of those people. We send the welfare person off to Mexico, El Salvador on half their welfare payment. They could live like kings.
That's really good. It's
And
like
then
house trading.
And we bring in the people
Timeshare.
who the newspapers tell us are all hardworking people who want to make a better life. Well, I think those are the people I want. I want hardworking people who want to make a better
Right.
life. I don't want a third-generation welfare queen. Send them wherever.
Now-
Let them trade.
The unions are fighting about this now because those that have jobs, they're afraid there's going to be others coming in, maybe non-union, that are going to take their jobs away.
Right.
The other side of the coin is the unions behind it because look at all these people. We're losing all these jobs. All these people come across the border. We'll start them off with $3 an hour, $6 an hour, and before you know it, once they're here, we'll start hitting them up for a legitimate minimum wage. What is it in Irvine? $10 an hour.
10 or 12, getting there now.
So this low-cost labor isn't going to be there forever. And the minute they get here, as soon as they get the opportunity to become citizens, they're going to demand
The
comparable
unintended
wages.
consequences of the healthcare issue, the cost of healthcare for people that have real insurance. I mean, it's a joke that we just keep getting. Once you have real insurance, all that guarantees you is you're going to continually get a bill from that person who provided you with it, and the money. It's not because you owe it; it's because you're paying for somebody else that's taking that health care and utilizing it and not paying a penny.
Well, in fact, they always talk about the crisis and they cite the number of people without insurance, but they don't really cite the number of people without health care. There are people without insurance who have very good health care, but they don't choose to pay their money to an insurance company because they're pretty healthy and it's a better cost balance for them to just go
Right.
without the insurance. So this insurance crisis, I think that's partly a result of the insurance companies. It's not insurance that we need, it's medical care.
Well, if you take the German example, you just pay for it. You just pay for health care whether you like it or not. They've got a scale of, and you're 13 and you're whatever, 13 to 17, and you're in that, that's how much you pay. And then you're 21 to 40, that's how much you pay, and so on. And that's how, and that just comes out of your paycheck, no matter how it. Even and if you don't, if you're self-employed, they send you a bill. It's just like in the same thing with television. In Europe, do you realize that in Europe they send you a bill for watching television every month? They send you a bill.
What
They
if you
say,
don't have one?
it doesn't matter.
You should never sign up
That's
for the
part of
Nielsen
social.
report. That's how they know
That's
you're
the
on.
social contract that you've signed by being in that country. So whether you're in Sweden or in Germany or in France, wherever it is in the European Union, you have to pay for your TV every month. Access. It's an access fee.
Well, I sure hope
So
their programming
that's what
is
we're
better.
looking at. That's
You
what
heard
they're
it first on the cutting edge.
well, that's what they're looking at to do with healthcare. They're just going to say everybody has to pay the piper, and that's it. And to me, I mean, that's where you look at the Democratic candidates, and you've got half of them, whether it's Edwards and Hillary and so on, saying, well, we have to really get after those companies for charging for so much money, right? Well, do you think that those companies will cry a bit if they get a little, like half of what they get from the existing group? Now they get it from 46 million more people. They're going to love it. They're going to love it, and that by having it by the government, automatically the COLA's figured in every year. They get more money, or they don't have to complain to anybody.
Well, the sad thing is the actual providers, like the actual doctors and the medical
Yeah.
technicians, are getting squeezed because it's too expensive.
Explain
so let's
that
take
to
the
us,
money.
because I don't understand how they get squeezed. What do you mean? They're not
Well,
allowed to get money from the insurance
What happens
company?
is the doctors who used to be independent professionals
Right.
now are finding more and more that their options are limited, and they're almost forced into the HMOs where they're on a salary, and it's just keep those patients churning through. They have quotas on how many
Right.
they're supposed to have, and they get a salary. So
So you're saying we
it's a
really have
decent salary.
social medicine already?
Well, in a way, but
Socialized
it's
medicine.
corporatized medicine more than socialized, in the sense of corporatism.
You just have a third party that's kind of overseeing the
Yeah, and they're
social
kind
agenda.
of raking off all those high medical costs. It's not the nurses and the doctors and the medical technicians.
Right.
It's the corporations that now are running the doctors instead of
Can
having
you,
them
can you
independent.
explain what Governor Schwarzenegger was talking about his concept about that? Or do you know?
Yeah, where he was going to have the doctors. This was just nuts. Yes, the doctors are going to have to give a portion of their income back to pay for medical care for the indigent, and the doctors are already getting squeezed in these HMOs, and it's
This
not.
is great.
And the insurance
Another
executives.
reason why you don't send your child to med school.
Yeah, the CEO of Blue Shield, who's making what, a gazillion dollars. Oh, he's not going to have to give anything. But
We
they-
started this programming about 2 or 3 years ago. At any rate, we're looking at the second half of this show to expose some of the more important things that issues and how they're dealt with on the internet. But before we do that, there's one thing that we do have to bring to your attention, and that is that we had a recent situation for the Cutting Edge. We lost one of our founders, and it was a pretty amazing thing. We're really concerned about their family and friends of Gil Ferguson. Gil Ferguson was a guy that came to our rescue when we really needed it the most, and helped us with establishing the Cutting Edge. He did the first promo, which you can watch still on our homepage, and so on. So we're completely indebted to him and to his family for everything that they've done. So if you want to see, there's a memorial to Gil that he had a memorial service, but about 10 minutes of it is available to you on his home, on a page we put on our website. So if you just go to the homepage and you look for In Memoriam Gil Ferguson, you can click on that and then go to the actual memorial program, and at the bottom of it there's a video box, and you can click on that and see how much we appreciate what Gil has done as a father and a hero, an American hero, and a family person, and everything that comes with it. Okay,
You know,
moving.
let me just jump in for a second.
Sure.
Just getting back to Gil for the moment. We attended several of his breakfasts, Principles Over Politics.
Right.
And I tell you, the fact that he put his principles before politics, Republican or otherwise, is amazing. And the people, the guests that he had every single month, it was really something appreciated by the couple hundred people that attended. So I know the Principles Over Politics will continue, but he really led the way for others like a Tom McClintock who are not going to cave in, and we need more people like that. I don't care what party you're with, but have a principle, stand for it, and try to convince others that it's the right way to go. And Gil Ferguson surely led by example.
He really did, and we got a couple of really great interviews actually from
Yes, we did.
Attending there. Denise D'Souza, Dan Walters.
That's
Two
correct.
excellent interviews. If you have an opportunity to go back and watch those were both in conjunction actually, because we knew that they were going to be speaking at Gil's breakfast, and we asked Dan Walters, who is a great writer for the Sacramento Bee, if he'd join in, and he certainly did on that. And then Denise D'Souza also did the same thing. So we are very, very grateful to Gil and the family and all of it. Anyway, so Sandy, anything you want to mention about Gil and what he did?
Well, one of the things that even if you disagreed with him on an issue, you knew that it was a sincere, principled stand that he had. That it wasn't because he thought it would please some particular group or that he thought it would help him politically.
Well,
You knew that he spoke from his heart, and that's just real special because there are a lot of people in politics who don't do that at all.
Well, I haven't seen it, so it's hard to see anybody on the Democratic side or the Republican side for the president that have any of those qualities. But it would be nice. It would be nice if we were able to do that. So let's go back now and make that segue in back into how we deal with a world full of internets, with MoveOn.orgs, with Grassfire. Well, you've got a variety of these different websites that have their own political agenda going. And a lot of times you don't even know where they're coming from. But you have to kind of go there and find out. I mean, if you were to read Move On, for example, you wouldn't know that they were 110% on for the Democrats. You'd get a lot of liberal gibberish along with it, but there's some pretty good articles on Move On. And then you go to Grassfire and you go, oh boy, they're really against immigration, and so you think that they're just, that's what there is, but then they'll turn out and they're just very pro-Republican, whether it's right or wrong. So it's very difficult to take these websites and that you hear about and say, well, I've got one political agenda or another, and really find out what their real agenda is.
But Ron, you got to back up a minute. How do people know that these websites exist? I mean, you have a great product. The trick is for the public to know where to go to get these different
We're going
opinions.
to tell you a secret, Larry, and one of the secrets is that your friend Ron does, and we had to do this by pure happenstance. I would find something on the web by going to the Cutting Edge website, and you could go on to any of the 547 links that we have there.
Best links in the.
And I'm telling you, I mean,
Ron,
really.
Ron, the number's 490 because I counted, but it's a floating number.
All right. But at any rate, we got that, and then you'd go and you'd find some well-written article that might have some bearing on what we were thinking about doing. And then when you did that, I would copy it and I would paste it into a regular email, and then I would send it off to you. And then that got to be a little onerous because sometimes these things are really long, and it takes up too much time to do that. So what I would do then is I would just pull it down as a favorite onto my email, and then I would make sure. So a lot of times those aren't hyperlinks, they call them, which are connective links to the actual page. So you have to copy. You go up to that bar up there, and you copy the address. Right-click, copy, put it, and then put that address into the actual email, and you can forward that off, and that will go directly to that page for that article. And then people aren't taken up with so much of reading on your individual email, but can actually go to that web page and look at it.
However,
Yes.
something I have found is that sometimes I dig around on a lot of different government websites.
Yes.
And I'll read something and I'll think, well, those numbers don't make sense or whatever. So then I decide I'm going to dig around and find myself.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this is it. This is the dirt. You know, they were lying here, or they were misrepresenting there. And I find these sites, and I start telling people about them, and then a couple of weeks later, you go to find them, gone. And I now
Right.
know when I find really good stuff on some site, maybe not somebody's opinion necessarily, but actual factual material, I download it and save it, because
Well-
things disappear. There's not only a lot of information out there, but there's getting to be more information control too.
Well, that's what I was going to tell you. One of the things that there's called PDF files for people that aren't familiar with them. The PDF files are very difficult to manipulate. You have to have all of this special software. But if you can right-click on them and you can actually click or copy them, a lot of times it won't let you copy the whole thing. It'll let you copy a little bit, and then you got to do several times to get the full file out and put that into your own web, your own email. But by doing that, you're able to send it off, and I save all my sent mail. How about you guys?
Most of it.
Most of
Once
it.
in a while, I clear a bunch of it out.
Okay.
Well, considering the hundreds I send out almost every day, I save the ones that I think have legs that we would want to refer back to.
Yeah, but I'm not. You don't have to be a paranoid trooper to believe what Sandy said, because I agree with her. I've seen that situation where websites have evaporated very quickly once you find that there's a solid case against whatever that image is. So
Yeah, most recently it was on the State Department of Health Services. There was some data that I found that was contrary to some things that some other people in Sacramento were pushing. And this data went back to 1980. It was so great. And I was so glad I saved it, because it's not there anymore.
well, let me tell the most insidious part of this whole story we discovered by doing a little research, and that was because of Larry going to China. When Larry went to China, I happened to really dig into some things, and I found out that because Larry was a foreigner in China, he had complete access to everything on the web in China. But people that actually lived in China, they didn't have access to those same things. If you were to put in Tiananmen Square for Larry when he was there, you'd get 14 different returns on where to go on the Chinese Google search. But for a Chinaman, he only gets one. And so where I
And it's a map question.
well, no, but it was a photo of, let's say,
Some statue.
No, of the guy at Tiananmen Square with the Statue of Liberty. Okay, and that was all that was allowed by the government to do. What I fear is that we're all going to be handpicked out, and our webs. Every one of our web addresses has an address and a location, and it's very easy to restrict someone's access to certain locations by just putting their web address and saying that person's not allowed to go there. So as far as that's concerned, we can look forward to that sort of.
You think we're going to have to deal with censorship?
More extensive version of
Big.
parental control.
Correct. So you have to be a lot more creative about how you do your investigative reporting nowadays, because as you said, those good websites can evaporate, but on top of that, the good information is what evaporates more often than not. I've been on government websites where I would be able to get on certain things, and then the next day
Oh yeah,
couldn't do it.
restricted access.
Yeah, couldn't get there. Yeah, couldn't get there. So these are all things we have to deal with.
Well, also you have to be in the habit of dumping your cookies every time you go on and off.
Well, that's a very important. That's a very important thing. But even then, they have they have that smart software that just remembers that you were there, and it's pretty simple. So anyway, we're gonna look at those kind of things. So believe but verify. You said that the best.
It's Ronald Reagan's
believe-
trust but verify.
Yeah.
And it's tough, because if you're looking at sources as I do, I can't tell you how many hours a day on Google. I don't use those other search engines. Maybe I probably should. But if I'm doing research on a story or a subject or a person, I'll try to get as much information. When you look at Cutting Edge, for example, if you go to Google, you go to Cutting Edge and Talk Show, we're listed number 1.
Of course.
You know how many cutting edges there are on Google? I think it's 85 pages, I forget the number,
Yeah,
and,
but we're-
and where we're located.
We're still number 45.
The
or
generic
44.
name, Cutting Edge.
Yeah,
You
generic,
know,
off of generic Cutting Edge, we're 44 or 45.
my point is that you can go back pages and pages to find out, you know, information on different stories.
Sure.
And, you know, I'll find something written on another blog and it'll mention a book or an author, and I'll dig back to try to
Oh,
find
yeah.
out what I can. And some of them I have to translate into English because they're foreigners. But there's data there, but again, you're still gambling. You can multi-source, but if they're all wrong, you're still going to be wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Let's bring up something that's very important. MySpace, YouTube, Google Video.
Google Video.
All three of those, MySpace and YouTube, only allow you to download about 10 minutes of video. But then you can link to where the rest of the story is, and you could watch the whole thing. Google Video, we've got, 16 shows up there for Google Video. Those are in entirety. So when people go to Google Video and they look for Bob Dornan, for example, which is very hard to find, we have that Google Video there so that people can watch it, because nobody gets to see him. And I think we did the Western Conservative Conference too. I think we did
Yes,
that
we
one.
did.
So because that has Len Knopfsinger and people that have passed away, and
The one with Cap
Cap
Weinberger,
Weinberger,
the Nixon
also another
Library.
guy that passed away. So it's a way of documenting. But this YouTube and MySpace, everybody's doing it.
Yeah, but
Well-
you know the other one that's controversial now?
No.
It's the Google Earth, where people are
Oh.
peeping Tom now. And
Oh, yeah.
where does your freedom and privacy begin
Well,
and end?
explain that to the people out there. What is Google Earth?
Well, Google Earth is the basic is free. I think there's an upgrade for $40 a year, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Where, in fact, they've used that to catch the people who are going to blow up JFK. I think I just saw that in the paper today. They were using Google
Is that
Earth.
how they did that?
So what it is, it's a satellite, and it just zooms in. And a woman in
Real
San
time?
Francisco, I don't know how current it is.
Okay.
I know I've looked at my house. I said, "Gee, I recognize my
Oh,
backyard
and, you know,
pool."
it's so fun because you find it and you go, oh, I have to find my house. And then you find your house and you
Yeah.
see your, the cracks in your driveway or whatever. And it's so exciting
Sandy,
and
I've got
fun.
stand pattern concrete that explains the cracks. But go on.
And my driveway. And you're so excited and it's so cool. And then you realize, oh, everybody else can see
That's
that.
exactly right. That's how code enforcement sees if you put up, a second story to your house or something. They just sit in their office and go zooming around. It's Big Brother keeping an eye on us.
Okay. So it's just basically finding where every fish hook in the sea is.
That's right.
Basically.
And the level of detail has gotten so much greater. Because I
Yeah.
remember when the first Landsat stuff came out, we'd
Right.
use it for some real basic kinds of vegetative mapping, but it was not real precise. And sometimes, if there was just a hot rock or something, it made it look like there was vegetation.
There's an issue with freedom, your privacy and your freedom and your Fourth Amendment. So there are other things that get affected with technology moving ahead as it has.
Well, evidently, was it Ron Klein, the judge? He didn't realize what kind about.
We had some pornography on his
Well,
website.
he had
Oh,
child
yeah,
pornography
yeah.
on it. I mean, can you imagine a standing judge utilizing a computer at work and putting child pornography on it? I mean, I don't know.
Not only is it the moral issue, but if he's that stupid, he shouldn't be a judge.
That's the problem. That's where I had with it. Can you imagine anybody doing that? Because they're not thinking that everybody knew in the world where you're going. Because every click of your mouse takes you to some place that will be recorded.
That's right.
But,
Yeah,
you know, it's
we're
the-
recording history as we go. People don't understand that. When you go to whatever website it is, okay, your Paris Hilton website or whatever it is, people know that you've been there. And it's not just the double clicks, and that's the other thing that, Google is going to acquire DoubleClick. And DoubleClick is about the most invasive, there's argument, I've argued that both, that DoubleClick's part of the government. I mean, that they had to go along with it, whatever it was. Because they know every single location of every click you make. And it doesn't matter how many cookies you remove, it doesn't matter what, they're stockpiling all this information, so no one is safe. And you can go to, it's like one of our other cutting edge members, Eddie Rose, thinking that he was safe by going to the library to use the website.
But you have to put your library card number in when you sign
my
on.
point.
Right.
I mean, the traceability is there so easily. So, I mean, the technology now is absolutely unbelievable. So as you say, so if you think about Google Earth, and then you think about, you know, I mean, you saw the movie, what, Enemy of the State, with Gene Hackman, and he says, yeah, oh, they've been doing this for 20 years. I mean, you know, most of the things that we think are pretty
The
high
government, the
tech.
government's been doing it a lot longer.
See,
than,
now I'm going to have to go offline again.
Yeah.
You're going to send the Luddite back to her cave.
Not really, because the best part about all of this is that by going public with our viewpoints, okay, and you have people supporting you in your bed, it protects. It's a better protection. It's the more people that see what you're doing and understand what you're doing, the better it is. Because then you can actually come up with a viewpoint, and people will listen to you. It's a very important part of the veracity thing. If you're to meet somebody nowadays in this day and age and say, well, gee, you don't have a website, I mean, it's pretty embarrassing. I mean, even old grandmas have websites with all their kids, their
Well, people
grandkids
have them
on it.
for their pets.
They've got them for their pets and all the other things. So, I mean, come on. If you don't have a website, you know, what are you doing? If you're not, I'm serious. I mean, it's a very important part of the process to be, because now you've entered that, you know, Ray Kurzweil, very famous guy that is a futurist, right? And he's the one that came up with the translation software. So you can translate, I don't know, 25 or 30 different languages into English back to Farsi to whatever it is. And but his concept is that we're just going to have a little microchip in the back of our necks that's going to connect us to our mainframe at home with 1,000 Google connections, you know. So if we forget what the name or the birthday of our pet is, we'll be able to recall it through our mainframe, or niece, nephews, uncles, aunts, anybody you want to talk about. You'll remember all this stuff very quickly. Oh, and
then at the airport, they could scan it to see if they should put you on the do not fly list.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So where does it all go? What is
well, you know, we need to caution our viewers that you better protect your privacy. And I'm not just talking about, you know, don't go out naked in your backyard. I'm talking about your credit card information. I've had to change my credit cards because I was scammed by somebody using an AOL logo saying we need to update your account.
Right.
And our caution to anybody that's online is do not give out PIN numbers, do not give out Social Security numbers, because it creates a real monster.
Oh, yeah. I have twice gotten the thing from Wells Fargo. Looks like Wells Fargo logo. It sounds like Wells Fargo. And just out of caution went back to the Wells Fargo website because I am a Wells Fargo customer. Sometimes you get these things from banks you never heard of, so you know they're phony.
Right.
And they said, thank you for reporting this phishing. And that's happened twice.
That's really good advice because you know, we have AOL, Larry and I have, and we send these TOS reports. They're called TOSreports.com or whatever. And I don't ever know whether I send 100 of those a week. You know, I send all these different phishing things and saying, is that what it is? And it never happens. But evidently, if you send it to the real address person,
Yeah, you
they're more
independently-
concerned about it.
Yeah.
So when I get one from Washington Mutual, because I'm not a Washington Mutual client,
Yeah, go to the Washington Mutual website.
and then just send them the thing, and then that they'll probably get their attention a lot quicker, won't they?
Well, Ron, there was embarrassment right here in LA in Southgate, where somebody in the finance department, because of the internet, somebody absconded with $45,000 because they had access. So,
What's his name? Albert, the guy who was in jail, who was their former treasurer. He would have all the access in the world.
Alberto Gonzalez?
No, Robles.
Oh yeah. Okay.
but in any event, it's just the technology is great. It goes back to what we said earlier.
Well, we don't want to
trust
dissuade
but
people
verify
from going online
the data.
and because
But be
it's-
careful.
Just be cautious,
Like
that's
when
all.
you get the thing from Windows, I get these sometimes. Oh, you're out of date on blah blah blah.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
punch this to have us update. Well, it's probably legitimate, but just in case, no, I go to the Windows website
I agree with you
and
1,000%.
and you know,
Automated updates are a very that's a lazy man's way of saying just hit me, whatever it is.
yeah, I just dump whatever you want into my
Exactly.
computer.
And you just shouldn't ever do that. You should always go. I mean, it's like the problem right now that Microsoft's having with Vista, right, and with Internet Explorer 7. I still haven't downloaded Internet Explorer 7.
I wish I
And
hadn't.
Yeah, see? And then I also have not downloaded Vista either. I wouldn't do it. And everybody that's done it's been very sad about it afterwards.
Now, Ron, there's a 500-pound gorilla in this room here. We're not talking about it, and that's the internet impact on the political scene
Right,
about the election.
right.
Where our friend Mr. Dean was running a few years back and raised millions of dollars purely
And now
online.
Obama's done the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's where it's headed.
Right.
I was at a meeting 2 months ago, and we had a political consultant come in who talked about analyzing the election to find out, one of the questions they asked voters is what put you over the top in your decision making? And years ago you never think of the internet, but 17% of the people that they surveyed said they made up their mind based on what they're getting online, and we're getting bombarded.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting bombarded. I get bombarded by both Democrat and Republican Party. Every single candidate's got fundraisers, and
Sure.
they're sending you invitations because they're saving that 41-cent stamp, and they're saving trees along the way. So the internet is becoming a very powerful tool to be used for the elections that are coming up.
Well, all of these political websites, okay, it's going to be very hard to when it's like how many flyers we get in the mail at election time. You get thousands. We're going to be getting thousands, as you said, of these political things. And what happens is the delete button is real handy, and you just delete. And for people you really don't like, you go spam, spam, spam.
Although
And you're
you-
out of there because you just don't want to have to deal with it.
Well, there is
And
a
it's-
flip side, though, too.
Yes.
Because you get all this stuff, and I'm for XYZ, and I'm for ABC.
Yeah.
Everybody loves children. Everybody supports veterans. And then the thing is, because there's so much information out there, including the videos, you could find their actual words, or especially for local candidates. Now, most of the cities do videos, which they archive online.
Good.
And when they run for re-election, oh yeah, I was for parks and children and seniors and whatnot. And then you can kind of check around it, the minutes, they're kind of sketchy. So you pull down the discussion and you hear from their very own words, and sometimes it's very instructive.
And I think that's where the iPods and the GPS and the Blackberries and all these kind of
Oh,
things,
yeah.
these are the handheld ones where you want to find out about somebody, maybe even before you walk into the booth, and you could pull up their video and watch it. That'd be funny as
Hey,
could
wait a
be,
minute,
wouldn't
I
it? Yeah.
I got to jump in because they're copying what we did on the cutting edge when we started doing this. In the very
Sure.
beginning, Ron and
yeah.
Anna had a plan. It was $2 million to get a set. We're going to be on network TV or maybe cable.
Right.
And we said, there's another way. So we leapfrogged in technology and we went right to the web. One of the advantages of the web is you got candidates. It equalizes the guy that's the billionaire from the guy that may not have much money, yet the website costs him the same. And if he has somebody that can really, write the copy for him properly,
Right.
it levels the playing field a little bit. So the small guy has the same opportunity to get his message out online as the big guy.
And having said that, who else would have? I think we covered Nick Jessen, wasn't it, at the CRA?
Yes, we
that was the
did.
first thing we ever did, and that was pretty interesting because that's a little-known candidate who was running for what? What was he running for? Governor.
Running for governor.
Yeah.
Running for governor.
So that's the way things get handled, and we're happy as we can be. We're out there in the midst of it, but I guess going back to this political campaign fundraising, the reason why I don't really read too much of the political campaign material is because at every bottom of every one of those pages it says, "Here's where you send your money."
That's right.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and it's not subtle at all, and they're using a big hammer, like they're using traditional flyer kind of concept to get money out of you.
Well, from the RNC, be it from the Senate, the House, or from
Right.
the President himself.
Right.
Here's some 20 issues. We'd like your opinion on these issues. You're a
Right.
VIP.
Oh, yeah.
And by the
Oh,
way,
yeah.
MasterCard, American Express, and Visa all accepted.
Exactly. Correct.
What's their
Correct.
real agenda here? That's
Right.
raising money.
Well, of course it is, and that's
Oh,
the,
Union of Concerned Scientists, they always ask what you think.
yeah.
The only one that I've had, and I don't know how widespread it is, I was told it's under 1,000. I'm one of the participants in the Zogby poll. It's
Oh, yeah.
all online. So they don't go out and spend a lot of money. They don't make phone calls, which
Right.
cost $50,000, $100,000. They do it online. So again, it's their polls. I can't talk about Rasmussen and all the others, but I know for a fact Zogby is purely online feedback from people. How they select the people, I don't know.
And that's the other thing. There's a lot of flim flam going on, utilizing not Zogby, but I'm saying they're saying here, fill out this form and fill out these questionnaires
Age
and all
and
this. other stuff.
income and address and all
and,
that.
and get the free dinner at at one restaurant or another. And boy, once you're there, you've got more double clicks on you than you can even imagine. You'll be tracked from here to the end of the earth and never know what happened.
It's all
And-
processed
and-
by guys in prison too.
and the scary part about it is, that what Google is doing, which we love Google. First, we were the first guys with Google. But if they get DoubleClick, okay, what they're planning on doing is taking all those DoubleClick connections. In other words, if you went to go get Mrs. Fields cookies, or you went to the pet store, or whatever it is, all those things get lined up on your search. So when you search, you're going to get advertisements that say Mrs. Fields cookies and the pet store and all this stuff mixed in with your searches. That's the
It's
scary
customized.
part.
It'll
So
be
it'll
customized based on your-
And if you think that it's just the advertisements that are going to be customized, you're mistaken. It's going to be the actual search that's going to be customized, in my opinion.
Oh.
So and if they do it, MSN's going to do it. If they do it, Yahoo's going to do it. If they do it, even the smaller
The
Dogpile and all
Ask.com
the
and all that.
yeah, and all the other search
Sandy, as
engines.
a pet lover, you have to like Dogpile. You got to check it occasionally.
Well, actually, the dog pile thing makes me think of one of my searches that was very peculiar. Yeah, I learned that you have to be very clear about you really want
Okay,
something to put
we're
on
going
your
to have to
animal.
close this up for today. Today's the end of episode 3 of this
On target.
On
series.
Target series, and I don't know if we really resolved anything, but I think we brought a lot of
We had fun, didn't we?
We did, and
That's what it's
we,
all
brought, we
about.
brought to the fore a lot of interesting information, and I hope that people will listen to it, analyze it, and as usual, they're going to have to watch the show 3 or 4 times to figure out what we said.
Yeah, what did he say anyway? No,
Yeah.
right.
That's right. So anyway, thanks for joining us today on the Cutting Edge and On Target series, and thanks to Sandy Guinness, our resident former mayor of Costa Mesa, and to Larry Gilbert, our investigative reporter and active activist. Thank you.